Wars have always been a major factor in shaping civilizations and redrawing the maps of power throughout history. Victory in these conflicts did not depend solely on numbers or combat skills. Military innovation played a decisive role in determining the outcomes of battles. In ancient times, strange and unconventional weapons emerged, helping some armies achieve unexpected superiority and directly influencing the results of wars. Some of these weapons gave their users an overwhelming strategic advantage, leaving an indelible mark on the history of human conflict. So stay with us until the end, and don't forget to support us by liking the video and subscribing to the channel to stay updated with all our latest content. In military history, many weapons have shifted the balance of power in wars, but few had as terrifying and destructive an impact as Greek fire. This secret weapon used by the Byzantines gave them overwhelming superiority in naval warfare. It could set enemy ships ablaze even on the water's surface, making it one of the most mysterious and fearsome weapons of the medieval era. Greek fire was not just a burning substance. It was an advanced chemical weapon ahead of its time, and its exact formula remained a military secret that was never revealed, even after the fall of the Byzantine Empire. Some historical sources suggest its composition may have relied on a mixture of crude oil, resins, sulfur, and quicklime, which would ignite on contact with water and be difficult to extinguish by conventional means. This weapon first appeared in the 7th century AD, when the Byzantines used it against the Arab fleet during the attempted siege of Constantinople. The result was catastrophic for the Arab fleet. Ships caught fire rapidly, and sailors were unable to put out the flames, leading to a crushing defeat. After this success, the use of Greek fire became one of the Byzantine Navy's principal strategies and helped protect Constantinople from several maritime sieges over the following centuries. Mechanisms were developed to deploy this weapon against enemies. It was stored in special containers and discharged through copper tubes mounted on Byzantine ships. Sometimes, it was also used in hand-thrown incendiary devices hurled at enemy vessels, which increased its danger. The weapon's psychological impact, the terror it instilled in opponents, was as decisive in securing Byzantine victories as its physical effects. One of the most mysterious aspects of Greek fire is that the secret of its composition completely disappeared over time. Despite the attempts of many researchers and historians to decode it, no precise description of how it was made has reached us. Some hypotheses suggest the secret may have been confined to a few Byzantine families or engineers, and with the empire's collapse, that knowledge vanished with them forever. In ancient times, armies relied on developing their weapons to secure military superiority on the battlefield, and Rome was no exception. Among the most important weapons used by the Roman army were the scorpions and the giant spear throwers, advanced war tools that helped cement the Roman Empire's dominance in combat. These weapons were not merely instruments of war, but symbols of the technological and organizational superiority that set the Romans apart from their enemies. The Roman scorpion was a weapon much like a large crossbow, but far bigger and more powerful. It was designed to fire heavy bolts quickly and accurately, making it highly effective at striking enemies from long ranges. The scorpion's destructive power allowed it to penetrate wooden and leather armor and even some metal armor, making it an ideal tool for taking out infantry and cavalry from a safe distance. The giant spear throwers, also known as the ballista, were among the most prominent siege weapons used in Roman warfare. This machine resembled a catapult, but relied on mechanical tension to launch massive projectiles such as large stones and giant bolts. Their use was not limited to open battles. They were essential in sieges of cities and fortresses, where the Romans used them to break down defensive walls and sow disorder among enemy ranks. One of the key factors behind the success of these weapons was their advanced engineering design. They were built from reinforced wood and used tension mechanisms to increase launching power. They were also portable and easier to move compared with other heavy siege engines, which allowed the Roman army to deploy them across varied terrain, both in field battles and during campaigns against fortified cities. These weapons were employed within intelligent tactical formations, deployed on hills or elevated positions to provide concentrated covering fire for advancing troops. They were also placed inside Roman fortifications to defend forts and cities from attacks. Roman soldiers trained extensively to operate them efficiently, making these weapons some of the most powerful military tools of their time. In ancient times, war elephants were among the most powerful weapons used by armies to intimidate enemies and alter the course of battles. These massive creatures were like living tanks that roamed the battlefield, carrying soldiers and crushing enemy formations with their immense strength and imposing size. Many civilizations, including the Indians, Persians, Greeks, and Carthaginians, employed war elephants, and they played a decisive role in many historic confrontations. War elephants were trained for combat from a young age, becoming accustomed to noise, shouting, and the chaos of battle so they could endure the pressure of warfare. They were often equipped with metal armor to protect them from arrows and spears, and small wooden towers were mounted on their backs to carry soldiers armed with spears and bows. Thanks to their power, elephants could trample enemy troops and break their lines, spreading panic and disorder within opposing armies. One of the most famous military campaigns to use war elephants was Hannibal's campaign against Rome during the Punic Wars. The Carthaginian commander led his army across the Alps with dozens of elephants in one of the boldest maneuvers in military history. Although many of the animals perished under the harsh conditions, those that survived struck terror into the Roman ranks and caused massive destruction in the ensuing battles. War elephants were particularly effective against cavalry, as horses were often terrified of them and refused to charge. They were also used to smash wooden fortifications and enemy chariots, making them ideal offensive weapons. However, despite their strength, they had notable drawbacks. Elephants could panic and stampede uncontrollably, sometimes injuring their own troops. Enemies also developed countermeasures, such as targeting the elephant's legs or creating loud noises to frighten them off the battlefield. As military technology advanced and the use of ranged weapons like bows and catapults increased, the effectiveness of war elephants gradually declined. Still, they remained enduring symbols of strength and military prestige in many ancient civilizations. Even after they disappeared from battlefields, their legacy lived on, remembered as both fearsome instruments of war and powerful emblems of the might of the armies that commanded them. Throughout the history of wars and conflicts, deadly weapons were not limited to ordinary swords and traditional spears. Some weapons carried subtle features that made them far more dangerous and lethal. Among these were twisted, wavy swords and poisoned daggers, used in battles and covert confrontations to inflict maximum harm with minimal effort. Twisted swords were among the most fearsome weapons on the battlefield. Their blades were rippled or spiral-shaped, producing deep, hard-to-treat wounds. A strike from such a blade did more than cut. It tore internal tissues, causing severe bleeding and complicating recovery. One of the best known of these is the kris, famous in Southeast Asia, particularly Indonesia and Malaysia, and long believed to possess magical powers that enhanced its deadly effect. Poisoned daggers were the perfect weapon for assassinations and quick killings. blades were coated with toxins derived from poisonous plants or venoms extracted from animals such as snakes and venomous spiders. Even a slight scratch could allow the poison to spread through the victim's body, causing rapid paralysis or a slow, painful death. Professional killers and espionage experts used these daggers in covert operations because they offered an effective way to eliminate enemies without leaving obvious evidence. These lethal weapons played an important role in ancient warfare. They were more than killing tools. They also carried psychological terror that weakened opponents' morale. Twisted swords made combat bloodier, and poisoned daggers turned minor wounds into death sentences. Over time, their use waned as modern weapons developed, but their stories remain etched in history as testimony to human ingenuity in devising ever more deadly and mysterious instruments of war. Since ancient times, armies have employed innovative and unconventional methods to harm their enemies. And among the most dangerous of these was the use of primitive biological weapons. Long before viruses and bacteria were scientifically understood, humans realized that diseases could serve as lethal weapons. Some armies deliberately spread epidemics among enemy ranks by using corpses infected with deadly illnesses. One of the earliest recorded examples of this tactic occurred during the siege of Kaffa in 1346, when the Mongols threw the bodies of their soldiers infected with plague over the city walls, causing the disease to spread among the inhabitants. Some historians believe this event contributed to the outbreak of the Black Death in Europe, which killed millions. In other wars, infected corpses were used to contaminate water sources or to spread terror and disease within enemy camps. During the Middle Ages, some armies even used dead animals as biological weapons, throwing them into wells or besieged fortresses to spoil water supplies and spread epidemics. These methods represented a form of invisible warfare, as the enemy often did not recognize the threat until the disease had already spread among their troops. Over time, biological weapons evolved from simply using corpses to developing more precise techniques for systematically spreading epidemics. Nevertheless, the use of disease as a weapon remains one of the oldest forms of unconventional warfare, where ancient armies exploited the deadly nature of pathogens without fully understanding them scientifically. These tactics demonstrated that warfare was not limited to conventional arms and destruction, but also included subtler, yet equally deadly, methods. In ancient times, wars were not limited to brute strength alone. Military innovation played a crucial role in inflicting maximum damage on the enemy. Among these remarkable weapons, incendiary arrows emerged as one of the most terrifying and effective tools in battle. Incendiary arrows were not ordinary arrows. They were coated with a mixture of flammable materials such as oil, sulfur, and natural resins. Some ancient versions were dipped in combustible substances and stored in special containers until the moment of use, after which they were launched at enemy camps or warships. Upon reaching their targets, they would ignite rapidly, causing uncontrollable fires and creating chaos and psychological terror among the troops. The use of incendiary arrows was not limited to land battles. They were also employed in naval sieges, helping to set ships ablaze and weaken enemy fleets. They were particularly effective against wooden fortifications, allowing soldiers to approach walls or fortified gates with greater ease. Their impact was not solely physical. The psychological terror they caused played a pivotal role. Soldiers witnessing flaming arrows raining down often panicked, giving their users a tremendous tactical advantage. Incendiary arrows exemplified humanity's ability to turn fire into a deadly weapon, reflecting the military ingenuity that often determined the balance of power in ancient wars. In conclusion, ancient wars were a testing ground for military innovation. as civilizations developed strange and unconventional weapons to secure superiority over their enemies. Despite modern advances in military technology, the influence of these ancient weapons remains evident, paving the way for enduring concepts and strategies of warfare. Exploring their history shows that innovation in war was not merely a pursuit of destruction, but a reflection of human genius in adapting to challenges, even in the fiercest moments of conflict. That brings us to the end of our discussion. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, activate the notification bell, and join us in a new documentary soon.